All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome y'all back to the afternoon wind down with me, your man, the road DJ G-Syde, and my co-host Cali Peach. And it is our Mental Health Wednesday show. That's right, y'all. We are jumping back into mental health, and today is a very, very personal topic for both of us. The topic today is suicide prevention. As we've mentioned many times, and I'll mention as many times as I have to, if it's every second for the rest of my life. Everybody knows that Cali Peach and I lost our son to mental health. So we're gonna dive in and talk about this one today. And joining us, we have a very special guest, y'all. We have a special guest. She is life coach and wellness professional, Jakina Giovanni of Kina Connect. Get it right, G, of Kina Connects Life Coaching. Is that right, Jakina?
That is correct. Spot on. Kina Connects.
All right. So we're glad that you're joining us today because, like I said, this is a very important topic for us. Mental health, period, is important to us. But today is, I mentioned this at the top of the show when the show first started. I don't know. This was fate to talk about this today because, as I mentioned earlier, that our son who passed away from mental health, his birthday is this Friday. So for this to fall today, even though I don't talk about mental health on Friday, to fall today, it tells me that this topic, this whole Mental Health Wednesday show is fate for us. What do you say?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Meant to be.
Meant to be. That's right. Meant to be. All right. So suicide prevention. And Jakina, just jump in at any time because we want to hear from you. We want your perspective, your thoughts, your feedback. But first of all, let me say this. If you know someone in crisis, let's put this out there right now. If you know someone in crisis, call or text the 988 suicide and crisis lifeline at 988. The lifeline provides 24-hour confidential support to anyone in suicidal crisis or emotional distress. Also call 911 in life-threatening situations. If you are worried about a friend's social media updates, you can contact safety teams at the social media company too. That's right. They will reach out to connect the person with the help that they need. Because you see a lot of people post some of their mental health issues on social media. Sometimes, people look at it, they think it's a joke or think it's funny, and they just brush it off. Don't brush it off, y'all. And for you veterans, the Veterans Crisis Line connects service members and veterans in crisis, as well as their family members and friends, with qualified Department of the VA responders through a confidential toll-free hotline, or they also have online chat and a text messaging service. Just dial 1-800-273-8255. Press 1 to talk to someone, or send a text message to 838-255 to connect with a VA responder. All right, y'all. So we got that done. Let's talk about suicide. Now, everybody knows what suicide is. Suicide is a major public health concern. A few years ago, in 2020, suicide was the 12th leading cause of death overall in the United States. I had some numbers on that when I did this show for the first time a couple years ago, a year and a half ago, on suicide. I didn't pull that up, but that does sound about accurate. It claimed the lives of over 45,000 people, actually 45,900 people. Suicide is complicated and tragic, but it is often preventable. It's preventable. Knowing the warning signs for suicide and how to get help can save lives. So, what exactly is suicide? Like I said, we all know what it is, but let me tell you how it's defined by the National Institute of Mental Health. It's when people harm themselves with the goal of ending their life, and they die as a result. But what is a suicide attempt is when people harm themselves with the goal of ending their life, but they do not die. Now, I'm going to read something here to both of you and I want your input on this, that really, I've read this before, and I've seen conflicting statements on this, but it says this: avoid using terms such as committing suicide, successful suicide, or failed suicide when referring to suicide and suicide attempts, as these terms often carry negative meanings. Jaquina, what do you think about that?
When we're looking at the terms to use, I would think that you want to, I prefer the suicide attempt and kind of a failed attempt, but it's really about thinking what is the root why we even got to the space of no longer wanting to be alive. I think that everyone is going to interpret it differently when we're thinking about verbiage for it. But for me, it's really about addressing what is the root, what took place to cause those thoughts.
So another article I read a while ago, excuse me, they mentioned that you shouldn't say the person committed suicide. They said you should say they completed suicide. What do you think?
I don't get that.
Yeah, I didn't quite get that myself.
I mean, even you know me, I'm a last minute reader, so I even read it today and I didn't understand why they said that those words are negative. It's a negative thing. Suicide is,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So just me as a parent speaking about it, I don't think of that as that word more or less negative of something else. The whole process, the whole thing was negative. So yeah, I don't feel the same.
Right. And I agree with you. Cali Peach, do you want to let us know what some of the warning signs are when it comes to suicide attempt
Oh, sure.
or someone attempting suicide?
Warning signs that someone may be at immediate risk for attempting suicide include talking about wanting to die or wanting to kill themselves, talking about feeling empty or hopeless or having no reason to live, talking about feeling trapped or feeling that there are no solutions, feeling unbearable emotional or physical pain, talking about being a burden to others, withdrawing from family and friends.
Let me stop you right there. Oftentimes, our son withdrew himself from us, even sitting at the kitchen table or going out to eat together. You could tell he was withdrawing from the family.
Or even he would even withdraw himself from his ideas. I remember him saying, "Well, why don't we play board games? Why don't we have a game night?" So we started family game night for him, and then he'd go sit on the porch while everybody else is playing the games. Like he would withdraw himself even from the things that he thought of, you know. So, and to continue, giving away important possessions, which he did. He gave away or was trying to give away his car on social media. Saying goodbye to friends and family, putting affairs in order such as making a will,
Mm.
taking great risks that could lead to death, such as driving extremely fast, talking or thinking about death often.
Now, other serious warning signs that someone may be at risk for attempting suicide include displaying extreme mood swings, suddenly changing from very sad to very calm or happy, which he experienced. I mean, we experienced that with him. He was either extremely sad or extremely mad, angry, or extremely happy. Have you experienced anything like that with anyone throughout your life coaching or your wellness life coaching, Tina?
Most definitely. When I think about even just the mental health piece of it, these are things that I'm very much familiar with from personal experience. And that was a big part of wanting to get the help that I needed and then
Mhm.
being able to reach back out into the community. And my daughter on last year attempted suicide. And
Oh.
yes, and we were lucky. The universe interceded and we were able to get her into a mental hospital and get the help and the support that she needed. But she took a whole bottle of prescription drugs and luckily called her friend and let her know what took place and was able to get emergency assistance out there and get her to the hospital to get the help she needed. So I have experienced this within my children, and I've had clients that have experienced bouts of depression where suicide was thought of.
All right, folks, it's important to note that suicide is not a normal response to stress. Takina, I'm so happy you were able to get her the help that she needed.
Yes.
Extremely happy. That's why we do these shows, so that we could bring awareness to mental health, the different types of mental health issues, especially when it comes to suicide and suicide prevention. Suicidal thoughts or actions are a sign of extreme distress and should not be ignored. Thank you for not ignoring that. Let me give you all 5 steps you can take to be the one to help someone in emotional pain. Ask questions. Ask them, are you thinking about killing yourself? Ask them that. It's not an easy question, but if you ask them that, you could turn the table. You could turn it around. Keep them safe. Reducing a suicidal person's access to highly lethal items or places is an important part of suicide prevention. Unfortunately for us, what our son used is something that we did not expect. I won't go into that right now. Be there, listen carefully, and learn what the individual is thinking and feeling. Help them connect. That 988 suicide and crisis lifeline. Remember, it's a lifeline. It's not a helpline, y'all. It's a lifeline. They're throwing out a lifeline to help people continue to live their lives and be there and just continue. And it helps them. It directs them to the help that they will need to get through the crisis. And then stay connected. Stay in touch. Don't just ask them, are you thinking about killing yourself? And then think you're done. Stay connected. Stay in touch. Staying in touch after a crisis or after being discharged from care can make a difference. Can make a big difference. Any thoughts, Cali Peach, before we could go back to the R&B break?
Well, yeah. So I'm not a person that goes along with what everybody else says or cares anything about that. But I do want to refer back to something that was said on there early in the beginning, that suicide is preventable. Yes, in most cases, it can be preventable, but it's not 100% preventable. And I know this because when my son took his life, or committed suicide, I'm going to say that that wasn't his first attempt, and I did everything in my power to stop him. So you should do everything in your power to stop that person, and hopefully you will prevent it, but it's not 100% preventable, because this is something that he wanted to do, and he found a way where we couldn't save him, because usually we were there to save him. And that we know of, it was his 4th and final time. So, yeah, I don't agree with that part. So I just want to put that out there. I do agree that you need to do everything possible to help
Yes.
them. But when you did that, because I know there's probably people out there who are thinking that it's their fault and they have done everything that they can and it still happened.
Excuse me. All right, folks. We are having this discussion about suicide prevention with our guest, Chiquina Giovanni. But I gotta get back into my R&B. Gotta get back into this R&B. So next up, I have Bruno Mars with "That's What I Like." Y'all keep it locked right here on Global RnB 96.3.